Good afternoon. My name is Jeannie Sweeney. I'm the founder and the CEO of the Above Board Chamber, and I would like to welcome everyone today for our webinar on February 25th, 2021, and it's the best practice for virtual presentation and branding. If you don't have this right, we can't get our information out to people. So we selected the best panelists we could find in the community, and they're all rock stars. So prepare to learn some really great tips on how to make sure your branding is being shown out there and how to put on a webinar correctly. The Above Board Chamber, we're 10 years old for people that are here for this first time. What we do is panels of experts that teach business topics. Our goal is when you come to our meetings live or virtually, you learn things. We hope you meet people, but we want to make sure we're teaching things and giving you tips and information that can make your business even better. It's very, very important to us. We do a lot of different things for our members. For instance, they can put press release up on our website absolutely free, which we think are important. You can also put blogs up there. It's a good thing to put blogs out to the community so people know who you are. And another thing is upcoming events. A lot of our members are sponsoring upcoming events, or they're doing one on their own. So it's important that we get that information out. Those things are totally free. Right now, we're in two counties. We're in Lee and Cuyahoga County, and we have a lot of wonderful members. And we're hoping sometime in 2021, we will be able to go back outside and make sure everyone's safe. But in the meantime, we have some great webinars. We do have a sponsor. Unfortunately, she's not here at the moment. Jennifer Palsy, she's the Executive Director and CEO of Celadon Recovery Campus. It's a wonderful organization in Southwest Florida that helps people that are having emotional difficulties and things like that. So we'll learn more about her later. If she's unable to meet with us today, we will get some information, because at the end of the program, we will be sending a copy of this out to everyone that is here listening. There are people that will be getting it that signed up and could not be here. So everybody who signs up for the Above Board program gets this sent to them, because we all can't be here from 12 to 1. But for those that are here today, thank you very much. I'm so excited. We have a panelist that is amazing. So I'm going to call them, each one of them, and they're just going to tell us a little bit about themselves. Katrina, you want to tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Hi, my name is Katrina Hood, and I am a business and executive coaching coach for here in Southwest Florida. I help small businesses to grow and to develop, and I do leadership training as well.
And you do a phenomenal job out in our community. You've been around for a while, and your reputation is stellar. And we're excited to listen to you today and learn what you do and get some good information so we can be better. Next, excuse me?
I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. Javier Fuller, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Javier is usually my Wizard of Oz when I do my webinar. So literally today, he's two heads. So he's one in the back and he's one in the front. So we get to see his face today. Javier, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Jeannie. Thank you for having me, and thank you for having Conric be a part of this this webinar. So we're proud and excited and honored to be a part of it. And yeah, and it's sort of weird being here in front of the camera. But Javier, Vice President of Web Development at Conric PR and Marketing. We are a full-service PR and marketing firm here in Southwest Florida, serving clients of all sizes, helping to get their message out, helping to get their branding out to their target markets, to their customers, helping to build their bottom line. So. Any services you need, from managing your social media, email marketing, advertisements in TV, print media, or press releases, things like that. It's all things that we can handle for you. So, like I said, happy and honored to be here.
Thank you, Javier. Nikki, tell us a little bit about you, and tell us a little bit at Priority Marketing, which we're blessed also has member, and you just won a whole bunch of awards on top of it too. So congratulations.
We did. Thank you so much, Jeannie. And we are so grateful that you are having Priority Marketing and myself on today. I'm Nikki McTeague. I am part of the account services team at Priority Marketing. And so similar to Conric, we do provide a diverse array of for-profit and nonprofit client support. That could be through creative, public relations, digital, pretty much anything that your brand needs, we can support through marketing efforts. And so I'm just very grateful to be here. Please reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you, Nikki. We're excited to have you here as well. Patrick, it's your turn. You do some amazing things in our community and out of the community as well. So share with us a little bit about your organization, and also thank you for being a member too.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this distinguished panel of guests here. I am a co-founder of Dragon Horse Agency. We're an agency that provides business strategy consulting as well as comprehensive marketing services. Our clients include local in Southwest Florida, as well as national and international clients. And I'm very pleased to be a part of this panel today. Thank you.
Well, we are excited to have all of you today. So we're going to start our questions and we're going to get this rolling. So I just want to let everybody that is listening today to let you know, down on the bottom of the page of your screen, you will see a little button with an icon. It's a green, it should be green. If you want to if you have any questions, no, I'm incorrect. It says Q&A. If you go to the Q&A and if you have any questions that you would like me to ask our panelists today, please put your questions in there and I will do my best to make sure we answer all your questions. We already have a bunch already, but the more the merrier. So let's get this program going. Katrina, are you ready for the first question?
I am.
Great. What are 3 things executives do to do leadership on Zoom, to project leadership on Zoom, excuse me.
All good. So I mentioned that I work with executives in companies, mostly CEOs and entrepreneurs around leadership and projecting leadership. So my answer to this particular question is really for the owner, operator, leader of an organization that wants to project leadership on the screen. So one big thing that I suggest to my executive clients is to refrain from trying to use the backdrop. People want to know who you are, right? They want to know their boss in their work environment. They want to see their plaques. They want to see their awards. If you're working from home, they see pictures of your children. They connect with you on a level that maybe they hadn't before. And sometimes when you have the backdrop, it can be distracting. So I tell them, set up a stage for, and it's okay to stage it, but set up a stage for projecting that connection with your team on Zoom. I say turn off the self view or put a Post-it note or a little sticker next to the camera, because oftentimes we get distracted at looking at someone else that's on the Zoom, at looking at ourselves on the Zoom, at looking at all kinds of things on Zoom. And we miss the important thing, which is that eye-to-eye contact, that connection with the people that are on your screen. And then finally, one of the things that I'm really big on is muting notifications. You are busy. We absolutely understand that. But if your screen keeps blacking out, or you keep touching it or moving people, or distracted by the emails that are coming in or the notifications that are coming in, it becomes a distraction to the team, as well as it just doesn't feel like it's a priority. So make sure that you mute your distractions as well. Those are the 3 tips that I give executives as far as making sure you project leadership on the screen.
And I love that information. I remember a member that we had, he's still a member actually. He said to me one day, even on his Facebook, he says, nobody goes to my Facebook. And I said to him, it's boring. And he said, what do you mean it's boring? I said, what do you like to do? He says, fish. I said, well, put some pictures of yourself fishing up there. And all of a sudden people started. So we need to be human with people. So thank you very much for that advice. That was perfect. Javier, are you ready? You are next.
Absolutely, always ready.
How do I make my webinars, meetings, presentations more professional? That's an important thing.
That's an important question, and that's a loaded question because there's so many answers to that. But I mean, just kind of hit some of the highlights, and Cortina actually mentioned a couple things. That background is it's so important. Know what's behind you, whether you use your family photos and your awards and all of that, or even if you do use a digital background like I have. I don't have a setup here where I can do what she's talking about, and so I use the digital background. That adds some of the branding for the company, and that adds some imagery back there so people see the logo or whatever other information that we want to project. And it helps distract from whatever you may have in the background, whether it's a baby crib, which I won't admit to having behind me at the moment. Or things like that, the stuff that is not as professional. So if you don't have the ability to set up that background, then having that digital background really, really helps. But any webinar you do, just get some of the basic technical aspects of it set up. You want to make sure you've got your lighting right. Make sure try to face a window instead of having the window behind you, because if you have the window behind you, you're going to be really dark and no one's going to be able to see your face. Make sure that your AV, your audio video stuff is set up so that people can see you. A lot of times, you can't tell you how many webinars and presentations we've been on where, this is the screen that we see. Or worse, if you're a lot of us working from home or on a laptop, we set it on the desk and point the camera straight up. And
Mhm.
unfortunately now everybody has kind of that look up your nose, which is again not very pleasing, not very professional. And get to know the software that you're using. That's the other thing is know your settings, know what you can and can't do with the software. Get to know it ahead of time. Get familiar with it so that you can set it up properly. Make sure that people can hear you. Make sure that people can see you. Um, that's the beginnings. Rehearse. Make sure you're comfortable in front of the camera. Rehearse
Mhm.
what it is that you have to say. Maybe have some notes if it's going to be a presentation. Anything that you would ever do in a live presentation to get ready, it's the same thing on a virtual presentation. The only difference is that instead of being live in front of somebody, there's a camera and some speakers between you. So all those things you would normally do, go ahead and do them. Practice, get in front of a mirror, run through your timing, things like that. Um, and if you're not technical, get somebody to be your tech support. Jeannie, obviously you use us, and the webinars turn out fantastic because you get to concentrate on what you're doing, and do the presentation and concentrate on the content, and somebody else handles the technical aspects in the background. So those are some of the three main points that I usually give to make your presentations much more professional.
Perfect. And it's always good to have a Wizard of Oz in the background to make sure you look good.
Or in the
So
foreground in this case.
thank you, Javier. Okay, Nikki, are you ready?
Of course.
Great. How can my brand stand out amongst all the other virtual events and presentations? And what are some tips for excluding an engaging virtual event presentation?
So as we know, as a result of the pandemic, there have been so many virtual events, and a lot of us hear about Zoom fatigue now. It's getting to a point where, are you really even engaging with what you're actually being presented with? So I would say the first step is create a plan, whether that's a full marketing plan or just a plan, knowing what your end goal is. So if your end goal is to tell them about something big that's happening, or to raise money, whatever that is, figure out what that is first, because that'll help you figure out what to do next. And also, who's your target audience? Who are you trying to reach? A lot of times we think that we can just reach the masses, but it's who are you trying to narrow in and to connect with more? Is it business professionals? Is it potential donors? It's knowing who those people are and how to reach them. And then it's leveraging your communication channels. So there's a lot of things that you already own, like social media, your website, email marketing. How do you leverage them, and when do you leverage them? And making sure that those are built into your strategy and your plan. And do your research. Zoom is a great platform, especially in this kind of setting where we can connect with each other via webinar, but there's so many other platforms that range in pricing. So Zoom has a free option, but there are also different levels of Zoom. And so it's knowing what you need, knowing, do you need a networking option? How do you reach other people? For example, we just did a conference for the Everglades Coalition, and it was really important to them that they reach government agencies.
Mhm.
And so as we know, government agencies have a lot of restrictions and firewalls, and there's a lot of issues. So we had to find the perfect platform that still allowed for them to engage with their attendees in a way that was easy, that wasn't going to cause a bunch of headaches. And there's also free platforms like Facebook. We work with Kids Minds Matter on a segment called Mental Health Mondays. And it was started because during the pandemic, parents were just really concerned about their kids and they didn't know where to go for resources. So every week we provided a new expert directly to their Facebook who could answer questions, speak on a topic, and it was easy for them to access. If they couldn't access it at the time, they could go back later and watch it again. But we met them where it was easiest for them. Also make it professional. I know my colleagues on this panel had talked about, what's behind you and those types of things, making sure that your brand stands out. But also you might have to partner with a vendor, just like Jeannie partners with Javier for this, for these webinars, just so that she can focus on what she does best and that the other presenters can as well. It also gives you an opportunity to elevate your look. That way, maybe it's not just in your home. You could do it at a studio. There's a lot of AV partners in town that have studios. So is there a potential for that? And can you add graphics or videos or other elements to kind of help enhance it? And last, I'll just add, figure out how to add a wow factor. Is there a special guest? So for Benson Blackburn's Next Gen series, they have a CEO or a founder of a company who comes in and gives you that behind the scenes example of what happened and how they grew their business. Can you add prizes? So for LCEC's State of LCEC address, we added little power up pop quizzes where if people answered a question correctly, they'd be entered to win a gift card. Or can you add visual enhancements? So for Guadalupe Circtacular event, we had these animated elephants on the screen doing these fun little things. And the CEO even said, if you give it a certain level, I'll take a pie in the face. So she added this fun element that kept people engaging. They wanted to raise that money so that she would get pied in the face. But it's just finding those ways to add the wow factor that increases the engagement, that makes it exciting. And one last thing, I'm sorry, make sure you test, please test. Even for this session, we arrived 15 minutes early so that Javier could test with us to make sure things would go accordingly as planned, that we knew what was going to happen. So that's the most important thing, is test, rehearse with your presenters, make sure that it goes off flawlessly.
Testing is very, very important to make sure. Literally when Javier, we go on about 11:30 and the voice wasn't on correctly. So we go on 15 minutes before everybody else. So it's really important to have somebody in your background. And there's a lot of wonderful people that will do that for you, that will help you. We're blessed to have Javier, so we're excited about that. Patrick, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
You ready?
Yes, absolutely.
What are the technical aspects a virtual presenter should focus on?
So for many of us at this point in the pandemic, virtual presentations are commonplace. For some of us, they're new. And for some of us that participate on a regular basis, you still struggle with a level of comfort. But as Javier pointed out, and some of our other panelists, the technical attributes of a successful virtual presentation cannot be understated. You definitely need to get the right light. You want to choose the right background, as everyone has mentioned here. You want to know your technology. So if you don't have someone like Javier running your webinar for you or your presentation, not knowing your technology and having a technology glitch is the fastest way to sabotage your presentation. So definitely have a familiarity with the platform that you're using and with the tools and the presentation that you are providing to your audience. Some of the other elements are, I'd highly recommend that you are plugged into your modem, that you're not using Wi-Fi. I know that all of us have participated in webinars where we've seen screens freeze, where there's latency, and that can be a very disruptive element to your branding as well as the message that you're trying to convey. And then most importantly, I believe something that we've all seen, and as a matter of fact, last week I was on a investor webinar for a incubator, and there were 10 technology companies all pitching for investments. And lo and behold, the incubator that was hosting the event got Zoom bombed. And it was not a very pleasant experience, as you can imagine. It was one of those that was just pictures and very graphical. Anyway, very important that nowadays you check your security settings, not just in terms of for Zoom, which has improved its security platform, or for Teams or whatever you're using, Skype, but security is very, very important. And then lastly, I would recommend that as you go through your presentations, you record them, you review them, and continue to hone and improve your capabilities from not only in terms of looks or engagement, but also in terms of the way that you're communicating the information that you're trying to convey to your audience.
That's excellent. It is so important that we have all these different things that each one of you have added, so people know who you are, because that's your branding. You know, I speak about that a lot of times with a lot of our members, like how you act, what you do, what you put out there, that's you. So if somebody
Yes.
is looking to hire you, like when I have somebody that wants to join the Above Board Chamber, I Google them. You know, I don't know if everybody else does, but I Google people. I want to know who's coming in, who they are. I want to know different things about them. And so your image needs to be correct, and it needs to be, I said to somebody a couple of years ago, there was this gentleman that was coming to my meeting. This sounds terrible, but he dressed like he was going to some crazy place. And I said, we were talking about it, and everybody in the room was dressed nice, and he just like came in with shorts and stuff. And it was just, he just stood out. And he said, what do you think? I said, when you leave your house in the morning, look in the mirror and say, will I hire that person? Am I going to hire that person? So your brand, your image, and some brands are us.
Well, you
Right?
make a great point, Jeannie. We all have a brand, whether we walk out the door and we walk out the door at 5 o'clock and we put on our own personal kind of outfit, if you will, and what we do in our personal life and how we handle ourselves in our personal life is a brand. And what we do in our professional life is a brand. And so constantly we are branding, and especially in a world where, you know, communication and video conferencing and social media is so prevalent, that everything that you do is really a brand and a branding opportunity. So just be aware, as one of you had mentioned earlier, of what your surroundings are, how you present yourself, and that should help you tremendously as you move forward and try and achieve the goals you're trying to accomplish.
And in today's world, like it or not, we're on 24/7.
Even when you don't know it.
Even when we don't know we're on. So know the brand doesn't shut off. Katrina, we're back to you again. When leading your team on Zoom, how do you set and maintain ground rules? You need rules, right? So what are the rules that you share with people? Can you share them with us as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the rules that I have is, especially when you're leading like a small team, or your department, your staff, those types of meetings, when they're big group meetings, this rule may not apply. But for smaller meetings, I say one of the ground rules is everyone should turn their cameras on. It's good to connect with your team, especially your staff, if you're all in different locations and you haven't seen each other in a week or a month. It's these monthly team meetings. It's good for everyone to turn their camera on so we can reconnect as an organization and have that bonding. So I think that's very important, that's one of the ground rules. The second ground rule is set a schedule so that people can be prepared. Impromptu, necessary meetings are one thing, but if you're going to have a meeting and it's going to be monthly, or you want to get in touch with someone, set a schedule so that people can prepare. The worst thing, especially when working from home or virtually in some capacity, is to not be prepared, to be in the car because you weren't prepared, to be running with your children and because you weren't prepared. So making sure you set a schedule and schedule those meetings and stick to that schedule is very important. And then last but not least, sometimes in our Zoom meetings, we have these meetings, and because they are virtual, we don't take minutes and we don't do follow-up. And I think it's critical as a leader that you make sure that when you have a Zoom meeting, that somebody is responsible for taking minutes, either through recording like you're doing now, Jeannie, or by regular hand or typing them out, and then go back to those minutes, to those notes, and record what is important. What were the takeaways? What were the assigned duties? How are we going to follow up on those? Because often, just like a phone call, things get lost in translation, and Zoom is no different. You want to make sure that even though you're not together in one room, that you're doing those things.
Excellent, excellent advice. Javier, how can webinars, virtual meetings promote and build my business and nonprofit?
Great question. The great thing about putting on webinars and having people come see you or hear you speak is that it puts you in front of everybody and makes you an expert. in the field. So running whether it's a virtual event or a real event or live event, I guess. Not because these are real events. Um, it puts you in the spotlight. You are the expert in your field. You are the expert in whatever that topic is, and so it starts to build that trust factor in the audience. So they start to know, like, and trust you, and that's what people need before they they pull the trigger and decide to use to purchase your products, your services, or whatever it is that you have to offer. So that's the main thing. Second is it helps build your brand as you promote the event, and during the event, you've got your logo, you've got your services, your products, things related to it, all throughout the event, so people know exactly what it is that you do, what
Mhm.
services you have to offer, what products you have that can be helpful to them in their business life, in their personal life, whatever it is, and it helps people know what you have to offer. Um, Also, it helps you can build your list. One of the main things that we promote to a lot of our clients is always build your list. Get a list of email addresses, phone numbers, contact information, whatever it is,
Mhm.
um, to be able to reach out to your potential customers out there. It's one thing to give out business cards and put out your marketing information, but it's much more important to collect that contact information from your potential clients or potential customers. So, for example, with these webinars, we require people to register.
Mhm.
That requires them to just give you an email address just to be able to attend. That's a great way to build your list so that you can continue to market to them after the webinar. Because obviously, you spend a lot of time and effort marketing and promoting yourself and your products, your company, your services during the event, but what do you do afterwards? How do you follow up with them? By requiring registrations, you collect that contact information. You can continue to market to them for as long as possible. And of
Perfect.
course, it helps build your business if you can charge to attend an event too. If you're giving value to somebody, there's nothing wrong in charging a few bucks to have people come and get something out of that event. Obviously, this is a membership organization. They pay for the membership. They pay to come to see these events and hear us talk and give this information. That's valuable to businesses, and it generates an income. So that's another possibility to build a second or third or whatever stream of income for your business, is to give that value out to maybe a different target market, target audience, or maybe to your potential customers, to just generate additional income and build your business, or or generate more income for your nonprofit.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Nikki, is having a marketing plan for my virtual event really worth it? Or will a general timeline be sufficient?
If I could scream, yes, I would. Because what happens a lot of the times is when people come to us, they may have already put on an event or they've experienced another event and they come out of it with regrets. They say, oh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have spent more time on this. And your time is money. Money is also a big part of your business. So it's always better to do it right the first time. And so in order to do that, it's not just about how to spend your money on advertising and other efforts, but it's learning how to leverage these freebies, these things that you already own. And if you put it together in a plan, a more comprehensive plan than just an outline, because an outline or a timeline can really be more of a checklist than a comprehensive plan that has SMART goals, that has measurable outcomes of how you can go back and say, did we meet what we were trying to attain? And so it's writing down, what are your end goals? Who is my target audience? How can we reach them? How can we leverage communication channels? And then building that out. It's using those strategies through the marketing mix. So the marketing mix is owned, which is something that you own, like social media, your website, things that are organic to you. And then there is your earned media. So that is public relations. It's putting together guest opinions or news releases about your event. And then there's paid media. That's where you would leverage social media advertising or TV or print advertising. And so unless you have a plan that outlines how you're going to do that, along with a comprehensive budget, you can either A, spend way too much and not still get the result that you want, or B, come out of it feeling, was this worth it? Is it worth it for us to continue doing this? And as Javier mentioned, having the opportunity to reach back out to those folks and engage them in different areas. So unless you know how to do it and you do it right and you create the tactics necessary to reach your audience, there is a potential that you come out and you say, why should I do this again? This wasn't worth it for me. Instead of actually investing the time at the start.
Perfect. Good advice. Patrick, what are a few effective communication approaches for a virtual presentation?
Thank you for the question, Jeannie. You know, everybody has a bit of anxiousness when they participate in a Zoom meeting, whether it's an internal meeting or you're giving a presentation or whatever the platform may be or the purpose for it. And so it's very important that you focus on what we provide to a number of the business owners and CEOs and managers, these following 10 kind of tips, if you will. One you actually mentioned as we were prepping for this a few minutes before we went live is to have fun and be genuine. Authenticity and coming across to your audience is critical in engaging them and earning their trust. And so I would say also for the presenter, having a fun time. So the more that you're relaxed, the more your message is going to come across in a successful manner. The other item is to be prepared. And I believe it was Nikki, or maybe it was Katrina who said this: preparation creates opportunity. So before you go into your webinar or your Zoom meeting or whatnot, have a clear understanding of the materials and the content that you'll be discussing and reviewing and presenting to your audience. Brevity, of course, is your friend. Don't belabor and run through a number of items. Don't overwhelm your audience with information. Try and just be, as I say, we have the 3 C's: clear, concise, and confident in your delivery and in the content that you're presenting. And then also know your audience. Another, this was mentioned earlier in the presentation, know your audience, know your subject matter. It's imperative to have an understanding of who you're communicating to and the message that you're trying to convey. And then again, it's just simply have fun and be genuine. Relax and convey the information in a clear, concise, and confident manner. And that will have a positive impact, not only on your brand, but also in what you're trying to accomplish with your audience and the audience that is here to hear your message.
Great advice, Patrick. We have a question from the audience that I'm reading right now, but one of the things I do, just to let people know, I have 2 screens going on all the time. So when you're doing a webinar such as this, it's a whole lot easier. So you can look at your questions, you can look at your information, and you can look at the people that you're on the webinar. And so that's one of my things that I would suggest people do when they're doing webinars: have 2 screens, because it just makes life a whole lot easier. Here's a question, and any of you or all of you can answer it. One of our members is doing a webinar for an international audience, and per contracting agency, they won't be permitted to use a camera and will only be able to interact through chat. They need pointers on how to be a dynamic speaker and not a drone speaking to a PowerPoint. So who wants to give them some advice on that? Anybody?
I'll step in on this.
Okay.
For me at this point, and I think for most people, we are on Zoom overload. And so it becomes a matter of just put yourself in a situation where, as if you were in a room and presenting your materials, or in a conference room or whatnot, and approach it from a position of well, I understand. Actually, I'm thinking back to an issue we had with a client in France with the same exact experience, and we just really utilized the video platform on a minimal basis, and everything was done over chat and over email, so that a lot of the information wasn't lost in translation, if you follow me. I would recommend that it's tough. I would recommend that you communicate your information through email in a clear, concise manner as best as possible. When you're in a virtual presentation, it can kind of be lost in translation depending upon the culture that you're presenting to, and depending on what the content is. That's my own opinion.
That's interesting, and that makes a lot of sense with different countries, because it's even words that we could say to each other from country to country, they're using different contexts. Does anybody else like to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like this is audio only, so no.
Exactly. Almost like a podcast.
Yeah, yeah. And so if you're worried about kind of droning on and worried about not having an audience there, um, have somebody in the room with you that you can make eye contact with and have
Mhm.
that conversation with, and have them be your audience and substitute for that audience that you can't see. Um, I think that would help quite a bit. A lot of it comes back to the dynamics of the presentation itself. Make sure it's written so that you can be dynamic with it, and that it's not just, you know, a bulleted list of items that you will drone on about. Um, and so I think that'll help. So the presentation itself, and then have somebody in there with you that'll help you have that conversation, make that eye contact with, because funny enough is that eye contact will come through in your voice. If you're not, you know, even if they're not seeing you, they can hear that conversational tone. They can hear your inflections in your voice that you're having. If you're having a conversation with somebody in the room, even if they're not necessarily talking back to you, if you have somebody to speak to, that'll change your conversation and your speaking tone dramatically.
That's excellent advice. And sometimes maybe we can do both. Maybe, as Patrick said, do the email beforehand, what exactly you're going to speak about, and then do the audio, and maybe together it will make sense. You know?
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing to that.
Absolutely.
I find I present better when I stand up and when I am able to move. So if that is something that you are comfortable with, I would highly recommend it. It allows your diaphragm to get, you know, this breathing is very important. It allows you to come across, I think, in a more confident manner, as Javier was saying. And it actually is proven to be a very effective way to communicate and convey the right disposition or presentation in an audio format. So I would recommend that you potentially stand up, even if it's a virtual presentation, like the stand-up desks. Standing up has a tremendous amount of benefits to the overall success of your presentation, for sure.
Also puts you in a powerful position too. So you're going to be more looked at, more powerful, that you know what you're doing when you're standing. So good advice. Does anybody else would like to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing. Obviously, I don't know all the variables about this presentation, but if there is an option to do a look live, so it's content that's pre-recorded that is made to feel like it's live, and that could be for things outside of maybe what they're needing. But we do that a lot for clients who can't be in the moment, or who don't feel like that they can perform in the moment. They're more comfortable doing something recorded. And so there's a lot of different ways to do that. It can be through this platform and recording, or it can be coming to a studio and being able to engage a lot more by adding in slideshows and videos and other things than just a PowerPoint on a screen. You're adding in all of these visual enhancements that continue to engage people in a way that's not just reading words on a screen.
Good advice. Good advice. Katrina, would you like to add to that, or would you like your next question?
I would like to add that when you're doing the PowerPoint presentation, it's also sometimes good to flip between screens. So going from just showing your PowerPoint to actually talking a little bit live, and then going back to the PowerPoint. So switching back and forth sometimes can be helpful, just to give dimensions to your presentation.
It also keeps you awake,
It does.
which is an important thing on any kind of webinar, to make sure people are staying awake and they're engaging in what you're doing. So while I have you up there, we have a question for you. What are 3 things executives do to project leadership? No, I did that one. I'm sorry. How do you make Zoom meetings fun for your team? Now that is really important. So you all have teams, and I'm sure in the last year or so, you've been having a lot of Zoom team meetings, and that's a real important thing to do. So tell us what you would do, Katrina.
Well, one of the things that I have done with a client, or a client does quite often, is choosing things. So if there's something important going on in the community, maybe it's Heart Awareness, month, or International Women, or whatever's going on in the community, maybe you choose a theme around the holiday, or maybe it's like I have Fun Facts Wednesday or Friday where a client does. And so on Friday, everyone on her team tells a fun fact at What Matters Wednesday, you know. So she has all of these things where it gives you an opportunity to kind of engage in a fun way that kind of breaks up again the monotony of these Zoom meetings. Everybody's in, you know, you get kind of excited about the opportunity to participate with your teammates in a different way. Celebrating birthdays, those types of things. Ask others to lead. If you are, you know, the CEO executive and you're doing all of the talking during the meeting, it can become redundant. People turn off their screen, they stop paying attention, they start looking at emails. If you're asking others to lead, for example, someone on your team did something really great in a sales call and you want to feature that individual, give them an opportunity to be featured. If somebody is departments within your organization, give those individuals an opportunity to be featured so that they come to the meeting not only prepared to listen, but to participate actively. And then something that you did at the very beginning of this is encourage chat. So it sounds odd because in meetings, it's really like everybody should be paying full attention. But a part of making sure that people are when you're not face-to-face is these tools, like going into the Q&A and asking questions. Encourage them to chat. Hey, what'd you think about this? If I'm giving a link, if one of you can hop on and put the link in the chat, those types of things to help to engage each other and continue to make it fun so it's not monotonous.
Exactly. I remember in the beginning of the year, the Above Board Chamber had a prom. And we actually had prom gowns on and people got all dressed up and we had prizes and everything, but people needed it because we were all in shock and people needed to have fun. Does anybody else want to add to that? Because you all have teams. Have you done anything that extraordinary and fun with your team?
Well, we usually have, well, we initially started having our team chill times or our off times. But so we always came up with a theme for them, you know, whether it was, you know, a vacation theme or a sports theme, you know, for, you know, around Super Bowl, you know, we all had our football jerseys on. I forget, sometime in the summer we had our you know, beach theme, so we all had our beach stuff. I was sitting in our little kiddie pool in the lanai, things like that. So, you know, just come up with some themes for some meetings that are just, you know, change those meetings up a little bit just to get people used and comfortable being in these meetings and not being just, like she said, droning on and on and on about the same old thing. So just change it up, be a little different, and, you know, don't be afraid to get kind of goofy with it sometimes.
It's a great way to keep the team together.
Builds a lot of that
Nikki or
camaraderie.
Patrick? Nikki or Patrick?
Yeah, so for priority marketing, a lot of our branding is power up with priority marketing. So we use the light bulb a lot. And so for our team meetings, we have what are called Share a Shining Moment. I don't know if you can see these. And what we do is we find a value within our company. So we've established what our core values are. And we highlight an employee who has administered those or done something great that aligns with that value. And then during our team meeting, we kind of shout them out. We talk about them. We talk about the great work that they've done. And it makes everyone feel important and special. And then there's also an opportunity to win gift cards. So Terry will pull different light bulbs out of a hat and you can win gift cards to some of the restaurants that our clients are owning. And so it's just a great opportunity. It adds engagement, it adds a layer of fun, and it makes each person feel special.
Patrick, you want to add to that?
Not particularly. Here at Dragon Horse, we do a end of the week kind of happy hour kind of Zoom meeting. We actually use Microsoft Teams. We find it to be a very good platform. So we'll just do a casual end of the week kind of, you know, team happy hour, get together, social. There's nothing really structured for it. You're not required to participate. You can come and go as you please. We're really trying to, and this stems from, you know, I spent a number of years in Silicon Valley as a tech fund manager. And I'm really trying to be cognizant of everybody's time. So what we do here is really, we try and keep our meetings to about 30 minutes max. And we start every meeting with, you know, going around asking everybody, you know, what they want to share with the team or anything that is top of mind. And we keep it pretty informal. So we don't really do too many structured events besides that. But it is definitely something that I would highly recommend for larger organizations, that the team building. But we just tend to stick to our tight schedule and work on our Friday afternoon happy hours as something to look forward to at the end of a very busy week.
Sounds a perfect way to end the week. Who are we talking to here? Javier, how do I promote my webinar and get my brand out there? How do we do that, Javier?
Well, yeah, that's very important because obviously you have a webinar, you want people to hear it, and if nobody's there, you're kind of wasting your time. So you
Yeah.
want to promote it like just many different ways. Like there's so many different events that we can have out there, but obviously one of our favorite ways to promote things is through social media.
Mhm.
Get it out there on wherever your audience is. If your audience is on Facebook and they're younger, maybe you go Instagram, Snapchat. If you're doing more of a business audience, you go out to LinkedIn and you start promoting it on there. Not only just your regular organic post, but maybe you put a few dollars behind some ads to promote and boost that event that you have. Um, Email marketing is a tried and true tool. Get it out. Like I said earlier before, collect those email addresses so you can reach out to those potential um, customers again. Well, this is where that comes in useful. You reach if they've attended an event before, maybe they're going to want to attend an event in the future again. So use your email marketing tools, Constant Contact, Mailchimp, or just your email if you have to, depending on how big your list is. But get it out in front of people. Obviously, your website. Make sure that you have an events section on your site if you're going to do these things on a regular basis. Make sure that people know that's where they can go to see what's coming up. What are the different topics that you're going to be talking about? So utilize your website. That's your hub for anything and everything you do for your brand and for your business. So utilize that. And then of course any other ads depending on what is the size of your event and what's your market. Radio, TV, newspaper, your traditional media as well is a great way to promote these events. So, I mean, how many times you've been driving, you hear, commercial for a seminar coming up or something like that. You can do the same thing for a webinar. Just have a very short URL for it that people, if they're driving or only have a couple seconds to hear, but they'll remember it. They'll know how to get to it. Um, so whatever makes sense for whatever the budget and size and who your audience is. But really promoting an online event is really not much different than promoting any other in-person event. Know who your audience is, where are they, how do you get in front of them? So social media, email marketing, website, traditional media, whatever it is, use that to get in front of them and obviously make sure you're well branded. Not only the event, but your company or your organization as well. That it's all over everything and anything that you send out.
Exactly. And it's also important to promote the people that may be on your webinar like we do, because it also brings their people in as well. So don't just make it all about yourself, bring in everybody. I think that's important to do. Nikki, I have a question for you. A lot of people might want to have this answer. Do virtual events cost less than in-person events?
So we get asked that a lot because people get excited. They're like, I don't have to pay for a venue and I don't have to pay for food and I don't have to pay for linens, all of the costs that come with in person. But now you have to consider other things like a platform. While Zoom may be free to a certain level, you have these other levels that incur costs. Or maybe there's more that you need. So if it's a conference, maybe you need a platform that has an opportunity for an agenda and multi-day events, or a sponsor or an exhibit center, or a way to network. So these costs we just did an event that for the platform and the AV partner, it was more than $50,000. And so for a lot of people, it's knowing what your brand is, knowing how to reach your target audience, and knowing what platform works best for them. Networking is huge. When you're not in person, you lose that. And the chat feature is nice in a lot of platforms, but it still doesn't give you that one-on-one interaction. So there are platforms that you can do kind of like a FaceTime and connect with someone who has similar interests as you. Or there's a platform that offers kind of like speed dating, where every couple of minutes you get matched with someone. So there's a plethora of platforms out there, but they all come with a cost. And so it's knowing what you need for a platform. But it's also knowing how to engage with people offline, outside of the virtual platform. So for example, for Circtacular, we did a party box. And so donors over a certain level, they got circus theme things like peanuts or, you know, a hat to wear or something fun that fit in with the theme, made them feel included. And then we encouraged them to share and engage with us on social media. So it was a way to continue to put the brand out there for the client. But that comes with a cost. And so you're still having to incur some print expense, especially if you print an invitation. People still like getting things in the mail. And so, especially if your audience does. So it's still making sure that you're reaching them in a way that they want to engage with you and learn about your event. And then advertising, Javier touched on this. You know, social media is a great platform to use, and you would use it if your event was in person. So don't forget to use it now that it's virtual. Leverage those platforms. And in addition to that, I had touched on it earlier, the opportunity to do a look live. So you don't always have to do your event in person in real time. You can do a lot of prep, and that way you don't have to use a platform. You could create a video, you can embed it onto your website through YouTube. You can still install a chat feature so that people can still engage, but that way you're spending your time maybe monitoring in the chat instead of having to, you know, talk and focus and figure out what everyone else is doing. And you're creating the content that's still engaging, but now you've just incurred a video expense. So there's still a lot of layers that come with virtual events. It's just knowing, how do you want to reach your audience, what your budget is, and how to use the budget in the best way.
Great, that's great advice. Patrick, this is similar to one we had before, but it's a little bit more to it. Is a conference call as effective as a virtual video presentation? Patrick?
Yes, sorry, I was just trying to get that unmuted. If the conference call is effective as a virtual presentation, if I heard that question correct.
Yeah.
I actually think that the conference call is as effective, if not more effective. I find that sometimes in many of the virtual presentations or webinars that I've participated in over 30 years, I think the first webcam came out in 1994, and there tends to be a lot of distractions in terms of when you have multiple screens up in front of you and you're trying to communicate and convey, especially when it's very important information or it's business specific within the organization. I can find that the virtual element seems to be a little bit more distracting than an actual Polycom, for example, or a Cisco conference call kind of situation. I tend to find that conference calls, we've gone from a period of web conferencing, if you will, or virtual presentations. It's been around for 30 years. It's just suddenly this pandemic has made it prevalent, to the other side of the spectrum, where every single call now needs to be a virtual call. And I don't agree with that. I think that a conference call can suffice. Pick up the phone, have a conference call with your team or with a client, and that it doesn't necessarily need to be quote unquote person to person over in a virtual way. There are certain attributes to a virtual presentation that certainly are beneficial, but I'm still of the school of thought that we'll get there shortly as soon as we all get vaccinated, back to one-on-one meetings and visiting and having meetings in a room. But I think a conference call is just as effective, if not more, than a virtual presentation. Absolutely.
Good answer. And that comment about getting back together, from your lips to God's ears, that's all I can say. We have a question.
It's coming.
We have our question from our audience. Today, everyone is a star online. How long should you speak before people get bored and tune out? I see online live events that there's a person speaking for an hour. Is that too much? Like one person? Like I've seen that the same thing, and it's like it's a long time. Does anybody want to touch that?
Yeah, an
I
hour.
can jump.
An hour is definitely too long. You have to be dynamic. You have to
Hour's
have
too long.
something interesting. You have to change it up. 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe at most for any one person, depending on the subject, as long as you can keep it dynamic and engaging. If you're just reading a bullet list, 1 minute is too long.
Okay, I have another question. It's about the look. One of our members says, I have a circle halo light. but not sure if it's supposed to be used above the computer, on the side of the computer. She wants to know the rules. How many people here have a light, their circle light? Does anybody else have one?
I use natural light.
You're just a natural guy.
Yeah.
We bought one because we thought, oh, it's a great way to enhance what we're doing. And we found that natural light is always better and it feels more authentic. Sometimes that ring light can feel too produced. But if you are using it, most ring lights sometimes have a platform in the middle where you can put your tablet or your computer in the middle so that the ring light is around your screen. So it really depends on what you have. Some are clip-ons onto screens. There's different versions. But I would always recommend trying to find a window or a light that you can bring in. And going back to what Katrina was mentioning earlier, it's knowing who your brand is and is that really your brand?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Nikki. You know, knowing your brand is what is very important. If you don't have access to natural light, so in the daytime I do, and a certain part of the day. So if I have a meeting or a training and it's at 4, then the way the sun comes into my home office is totally different than it is earlier in the day. If I have a workshop that's in the evening or some type of panel I'm on in the evening, then using the light is important because, again, there's no natural light available. So I think it just depends. I would say get the natural light or the ring that has dimensions of light, right? Because you don't want the one that's like blaring bright, unless that is your brand. You want one that you can dim from different dimensions that makes it look a little bit more like natural light versus having something that makes you look like you're, in a photo shoot.
Sometimes I'll look like Casper.
And the other thing,
Like,
well, and the other thing about the light too, because I know the question is, where do you put it? And it's finding, so even if sometimes there's times where I have a window right here, and during the day, I might get a really big shadow. And so positioning the light that elevates that shadow off the side of my face could just be one of the ways to use it. And as Katrina said, get one that dims so it's not like really bright on one side and then this weird shadow thing on the other, to help balance you out.
thank you very much. I like to thank everyone today. I think this was a great program. Somebody asked me earlier what was my favorite one. I think it was this one. You all did a phenomenal job. The information that you were able to share with each one of us was outstanding. I always say at the end of our meetings, when God brings us into the world, he gives us gifts, but they're not gifts till we give them away. So thank you for giving gifts away today. I also want to thank our sponsor for Jennifer Palsy, Executive Director and CEO of Celadon Recovery Campus, for being our sponsor. I just want to thank all of our audience for coming and participating in this. As I mentioned earlier, everybody will be getting information on this. They will get a copy of this recording by tomorrow mornings. So we have great information for you to get a hold of our panelists. I also want to tell you about some great meetings that are coming up that we're very excited about. We have March, I have it written down somewhere. Here it is. Hold on one second, let me pull it up. March 3rd, Finding Success Through Marketing in a Pandemic World. That's an important thing. If anybody noticed, in the last couple of weeks, we've been working on marketing. So we're trying to make sure we get the information out. It intrigues me that when we had a recession a couple of years ago, the first people that were fired were the marketing people. And guess who are the most important people now? Is the marketing people, because people learned from the last recession and we had problem with our economy. We need our marketing people because we need your advice. So that will be March 3rd. March 10th is how a virtual assistant can make your business more productive. So that's going to be very interesting. A lot of people use them and they use them very well. So we're going to find out how it's used. And April 6th is data literacy, how to help your bottom line. So we have some good meetings coming up. On behalf of the Above Board Chamber, I want to thank all of you again. For information on the Above Board Chamber, please call 239-910-7426 or go to our website at aboveboardchamber.com. Katrina, tell us how they can get a hold of you.
You can reach me at steelblue.com. That's STEL like the metal, blue in French, BLEU.com.
Perfect. Javier?
You can reach me at conricpr.com, CONRICPR.com, or 239-690-9840.
Nikki?
You can reach me at prioritymarketing.com. It's prioritymarketing.com or at 239-267-2638.
Good job. Patrick?
Yes, you can reach us at dragonhorseagency.com, or you can call either 239-325-5088 or 305-306-3992.
Again, thank you to each one of you. I wish you all a above board day. Our audience participation was fantastic. Thank you for joining us. We hope we see you all next week on Wednesday. So we're excited about our program that we're going to have on Wednesday, March 3rd again, Finding Success Through Marketing in a Pandemic World. Thank you again. We look forward to seeing you soon from the Above Board Chamber.